We're mortified by you, absolutely and completely mortified by what you've turned into. My mother declared it at Christmas dinner, then tossed her head back and laughed, as if she'd just landed the best punchline anyone had ever heard. But the acceptance letter from Harvard Medical School burning a hole in my pocket, and the real reason I'd been juggling 3 jobs, wasn't what was finally going to break her. It was what I was about to lay bare about where her house payments had actually been coming from. The dining room went dead quiet, except for the snapping of logs in the fireplace. 22 relatives sat like statues around the long table, forks hovering halfway to their mouths. My little sister Bethany hid a smug grin behind her wineglass, while my brother Lucas suddenly became deeply interested in his mashed potatoes. "Did you even hear me, Natalie?" Mom pressed on, her tone thick with scorn. "Or are you too lost in that sad little fantasy world of yours to listen?" I set my fork down with deliberate calm, my hands surprisingly steady even though fury was roaring inside me. For 5 years I had sat through these dinners, these ritual humiliations, these carefully aimed knives. But tonight everything was different. Tonight I had nothing left to protect. "I heard you, Mom," I answered softly, sliding my hand into my coat pocket. "And you're right. You really should be mortified." She leaned back in her chair, triumphant, ready for the next round of her show. At last, a flicker of honesty. "You should be mortified that for the past 3 years you've been siphoning money from Grandma's estate." The sentence hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Mom's laugh choked off. The color drained from her face in waves, crimson, chalk, ash. "What did you just say?" Dad finally spoke, his fork clanging against the china. I drew out the thick manila envelope I'd kept hidden inside my coat. "Shall we begin with the forged signatures on the withdrawal forms? Or would you rather talk about why Grandma has been eating bologna sandwiches while you installed imported marble countertops?" "How dare you?" Mom started to stand. "Sit down, Margaret." Grandma's voice sliced across the room like winter steel. She had been silent all evening, but now her eyes glittered with clarity. Let the girl finish. Every head swiveled toward Grandma, who sat at the far end of the table, supposedly too confused these days to follow anything. Another of Mom's convenient stories. "I work at the bank," I said, opening the envelope. "The same bank where Mom holds power of attorney over Grandma's accounts." Imagine my shock when I started noticing the transfers. "This is absurd," Mom sputtered. "I would never, November 15th, $45,000 withdrawn," I read aloud from the printout. "Same day you took delivery of the new Mercedes. December 3rd, 30,000. That covered the European cruise for you and Dad. Need me to keep going?" Uncle Theodore, Mom's brother, snatched the pages out of my hand. His jaw tightened as he scanned them. "Margaret, these are Mother's accounts. This shows more than $200,000 gone in the last 12 months alone. It's perfectly legal." Mom shrieked. "I have power of attorney. Mother requires care and care." I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Is that what you call dropping her at my apartment every weekend while you hit the boutiques? Is that what you call forgetting her heart medication because the cash went to your wine and book retreat in Napa?" "You're making this up," Bethany tried, but her voice cracked. "Am I?" I pulled out my phone and started swiping. Here's Grandma's fridge last month, literally empty except for ketchup and one withered lemon. Here's the final notice power bill. Here's the eviction warning for the apartment you swore was paid off. "You went through my private papers?" Mom's pitch climbed into the stratosphere. "No, I went through Grandma's mail when she called me at 2 in the morning, crying because the heat had been shut off in December." I looked around the table. "Did any of you know she's been sleeping on my pull-out couch for 6 months because Mom listed her place on Airbnb?" Gasps rippled down the table. Aunt Patricia pressed a hand to her lips. Uncle Theodore looked ready to explode. "Mom," Lucas said slowly, "you told us Natalie wouldn't lift a finger to help with Grandma. You said she was too wrapped up in herself. That's what she wanted you to believe." I cut in. "She painted me as the villain while she committed financial abuse and elder neglect. 3 jobs. That's what I work, not because I'm a loser, but because I'm keeping Grandma fed, medicated, and safe while still scraping together tuition money. Medical school." Dad snorted. "You're a part-time teller. Part-time teller. Part-time paramedic. Weekend pharmacy tech. Also, I could care for the grandmother you threw away like trash. But go ahead, keep telling everyone I'm the family failure. Mom lunged for the letter I slid across the table, hands trembling as she unfolded it. The tears started before she reached the second line. This says you Harvard? Full ride merit scholarship, I confirmed. Turns out when you stop wasting energy trying to earn love from people who enjoy hurting you, you can actually move mountains. But you never told us, Bethany whispered. When exactly should I have announced it? During the part where Mom calls me worthless? Or when she's mocking me for daring to have dreams? Or maybe when she's laughing about how I'll die broken alone? Grandma rose slowly, leaning on her cane. I knew, she said, voice steady as stone. Natalie has been shielding me, feeding me, fighting for me while my own daughter bled me dry. Mother, please, Mom started. I understand everything, Grandma snapped. I've been playing the doddering old lady routine because Natalie begged me to. She wanted to handle this quietly, spare the family a public implosion. But you've detonated it yourself. I laid another thick stack of documents on the table. 3 years of statements. Every transfer, every forged check, every lie. My branch manager helped me pull it all together. We were going to confront you privately. But since you insist on public executions, let's do it properly. Please, Mom whimpered, mascara rivers running down her cheeks. Please don't. Remember how I used to beg you to stop humiliating me in front of everyone? I asked. Remember how Grandma begged to stay in her own home? Remember how I begged you, just once, to be proud of me? We are proud, Dad tried. No. You're proud of Bethany for marrying money. You're proud of Lucas for joining the family firm. But me? The daughter who survived your indifference, who clawed her way up from nothing, who's headed to Harvard Med while keeping her grandmother alive, I'm the family disgrace. Uncle Theodore finished reading and slammed the papers down. Margaret, this is felony theft. This is prison. Mom collapsed into her chair, wailing. I didn't mean Robert's company was failing, so you robbed your own mother? Aunt Patricia asked, voice shaking with disgust. And then blamed Natalie for not doing more. She was always so distant, Mom sobbed. So cold. She never needed us. I needed you every single day, I said, barely above a whisper. I needed parents who loved me. I needed a mother who didn't treat me like a rival. I needed a family that celebrated me instead of resenting me. But you were too busy drowning in your own insecurities to notice. What happens now? Lucas asked, looking sick. Now I move in with Natalie for good, Grandma declared. She's already made me a beautiful room. As for the money you stole, she fixed Mom with an icy stare. You have 30 days to return every cent, or Natalie and I file charges. Mother, Mom choked. You are no daughter of mine, Grandma said. Natalie has been more of a daughter to me than you ever bothered to be. She gave up her 20s to keep me alive while you spent my savings on handbags. I stood, suddenly bone-tired. I'm taking Grandma home. To our home. The rest of you can finish your ham and decide whether you still want people who steal from old women at your table. Natalie, wait, Bethany called. I didn't know. Mom always said you were jealous, that you abandoned Grandma, and you never once asked me, I replied. Never wondered why the selfish sister was working herself to death. That's on you. I helped Grandma with her coat. Mom's sobs turned theatrical. How could you do this to me? On Christmas? In front of the whole family? I paused in the doorway and looked back at the woman who gave me life but never gave me love. You wanted to know why you should be ashamed of me. I just told you. You should be ashamed that your daughter had to grow up and become the parent you refused to be. Ashamed that she had to shield her grandmother from her own mother's greed. Ashamed that she's going to one of the best medical schools in the world in spite of you, not because of you. I'm sorry, Mom wept. I'm so sorry. No. You're sorry the spotlight finally swung onto you. There's a difference. As Grandma and I stepped into the cold night, relatives began picking teams. Some rushed to comfort Mom. Others came to us, hugging me, apologizing, promising to help recover the money. Uncle Theodore swore he'd make sure every dollar came back. Aunt Patricia squeezed my hand and whispered she'd always suspected Mom's stories about me were too vicious to be true. In the car, Grandma reached for my hand. You know, sweetheart, I'm not sorry it ended this way. Not about the theft, she clarified, but about the truth finally coming out. You carried this alone far too long. Now you're free. She'll never forgive me, I said, tears surprising me. Do you need her forgiveness? Grandma asked gently. Or do you need to forgive yourself for ever believing you had to earn her love? I thought about that all the way back to the little apartment I'd fought so hard to keep. Our apartment. I think, I said, I need to forgive myself for chasing something that was never there to catch. Harvard is going to be lucky to have you, Grandma smiled. And so am I. You saved my life, Natalie. In every way a person can be saved. You saved mine too, I confessed. Having one person who saw me, who really saw me, was what kept me breathing. My phone kept lighting up texts from cousins, uncles, aunts. Some begged forgiveness, some asked questions, some defended Mom. I powered it off. Any regrets? Grandma asked as we carried ornaments into the living room. One, I admitted. I wish I'd spoken up years ago. But maybe I needed to get here first, Harvard letter in hand, Grandma safe, strong enough to walk away. Your mother was wrong about one thing, Grandma said while we hung the first silver icicle on our modest tree. She said she was ashamed of you. The truth is she's ashamed of the mirror you held up, the woman she could have been if she'd chosen love over envy, generosity over greed, truth over appearances. That Christmas dinner was an ending. The end of begging for scraps of approval from people incapable of giving them. The end of wearing shame that was never mine. The end of silencing my own story to keep a peace that was never real. But it was also a beginning. The beginning of medical school. The beginning of honest relationships with the relatives who chose truth over comfort. The beginning of a life where love is given freely, not doled out as a reward for suffering. Mom's tears that night weren't just about getting caught or facing consequences. They were the tears of a woman who finally realized she had shoved away the one person who would have walked through fire for her. The daughter who worked herself ragged to protect the grandmother she discarded. The daughter who earned Harvard against every ounce of discouragement she threw. The daughter who spoke the truth when everyone else swallowed the lies. She cried because in trying to humiliate me, she exposed her own hollowness. And for once, those tears were genuine. As Grandma and I finished trimming our little tree that night, I felt something lift off my shoulders that I'd carried since childhood. The shame had never belonged to me, and at long last, I had handed it back to its rightful owner.